Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. I'm joined today by Nick Turner. Hello, Nick.
Hello. Hello.
So Nick's going to be guiding us through the demo portion of the webinar today, and we're here to discuss an introduction to Ekahau Connect. So welcome and thanks for joining. So we're going to try and keep the slides today to a minimum to give more time for the demo and obviously any questions. Before that, I'd just like to quickly run over who Open Reality are for anyone that's not aware. So we're a value-added wireless distributor in the UK. We've been working with Ekahau for about 12 years now, and Ekahau supports 3 segments of the Wi-Fi lifecycle: the design, the validation of the network, and then ongoing troubleshooting. Last year we partnered with 3 new vendors to complement the Ekahau solution. The first of those is Hive Radar. They do a wireless site survey kit, which is really useful when you're doing AP on a stick surveys as part of network validation post-deployment. We've also partnered with Arista, who are formerly Mojo Networks. Now they've got a cloud managed controllerless solution, which obviously covers the deployment segment of the circle, and also they've got really powerful analytics that help you with the monitoring and troubleshooting of your wireless network. And finally, 7Signal. It's a continuous wireless monitoring platform using hardware sensors which act as clients across the network, and also a mobile eye agent which crowdsources Wi-Fi data direct from users' devices. So obviously this information is really powerful for wireless monitoring and troubleshooting hard to diagnose problems. So that's enough about Open Reality. So for those that might not know who Ekahau are, Nick, could you just give us a quick 2 minutes on Ekahau, where you've come from and what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So those of you who know who Ekahau are, thank you very much for joining the webinar. Welcome. And for those of you who don't know who Ekahau is a company originally based out of Helsinki in Finland. We're now headquartered in the US, and we create tools for Wi-Fi professionals. And our suite of tools include a software solution called Ekahau Pro. And with that tool, you can simulate wireless environments, do that predictive design portion of the life cycle of a wireless network. And we also have a hardware product called Sidekick. Sidekick is an all-in-one unit minus the screen for performing site surveys. And the software and the hardware solution go hand in hand. And we recently added to our portfolio of solutions with Ekahau Connect. But really, yeah, Ekahau, we provide a suite of Wi-Fi tools for WLAN professionals.
Perfect. Yeah, so this slide just recaps slightly on what Nick just said. So Ekahau Pro is what everybody knows as Ekahau Site Survey. So there's been a slight change in the name there, but it's still the same product. Yes. There's actually been some recent updates, haven't there, Nick?
Yeah, so we should just talk about the name change for a second. So the software used to be called Ekahau Site Survey, which was semi-confusing, or potentially, it held potential for confusion because it was also a planning tool. It was a survey tool and a planning tool. So in that vein, we decided to change the name to Ekahau Pro, or for professional, and Ekahau Pro is basically the same application, but version 10, which is the latest version that as we renamed it, that has received quite a considerable code rewrite. So there is a lot of the back-end code that has been rewritten from scratch. The visualization engine was overhauled. The UI has been updated, and we introduced some key features, those ones on the screen there, like being support for 802.11ax, Wi-Fi 6, and also interference detection, which we might touch on in this webinar, we might not, but that's also a Sidekick feature. But yes, and just a point actually on 802.11ax, let's just jump in there right now. When it comes to survey, Ekahau Pro and the Sidekick, they are passive survey tools. Now we do support active survey as well, but Sidekick and Ekahau Pro, predominantly a passive survey tool, that's why we can introduce 802.11ax support with a software update.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Great, thanks, Nick. And it's important to say that version 10 is a free update for anybody that had an active support contract. That's one of the best things about Ekahau. There's always new versions coming out with some great new features, and as long as you've got an active support contract, you get all of those updates absolutely free.
Correct. Yes.
So Sidekick. So people are probably going to be more familiar with what Sidekick is, because that's been out for a little while now. Do you want to just quickly run through exactly what Sidekick is?
Yeah. Ekahau Sidekick is the all-in-one hardware device solution from Ekahau. And I say all-in-one, it is an all-in-one in terms of it contains all of the sensors that we need. It doesn't have a screen on top of it. So it's everything you need apart from the screen. We think it's bring your own screen with a Sidekick, but otherwise it's an all-in-one device. Essentially, it is a box in which we store two 802.11ac Wi-Fi radios. They are in passive mode, and they allow us to do the passive site survey. There's a spectrum analyzer inside this unit, which gives us raw RF energy, or the ability to visualize the raw RF energy around us. That is useful for identifying non-Wi-Fi sources of interference, and we can also visualize the utilization of the spectrum around us. There's also a battery pack inside Sidekick, and that's a key factor as a key feature of the Sidekick, is that this unit does not draw power from your laptop, and it also enables us to have higher grade hardware inside it. So the spectrum analyzer, for example, that we have inside the Sidekick would not be possible to run that off of USB power. So that's a big part of why we have a battery pack inside the Sidekick. And there is also a storage device inside the Sidekick, and we'll talk about why that's important in a moment. But just in terms of what's actually inside the Sidekick, it's those 5 or 6 main things. So that's 2 Wi-Fi radios, battery pack, storage space, and high resolution spectrum analyzer.
Great. And talking of bring your own screen, that's really where I think the survey for iPad has sort of really revolutionized the way that people are going to be doing surveys now. So obviously previously a lot of people were walking around with laptops, which after a long day of surveying certainly tires out your arms and your legs, because they can be quite hefty, whereas now there's a much more slick way of doing that, isn't there, Nick?
That's right. Yeah, so we really hope this does, we hope this product appeals to Wi-Fi engineers. I mean, that's who we've designed this for. And one thing that Sidekick, another advantage of the Sidekick, was just that it removed that reliance on drivers written for Windows. So originally we used to use those Wi-Fi dongles to perform a site survey, but we relied upon drivers that were installed into Windows to drive those pieces of hardware. With Sidekick, we enabled engineers to use a Mac for that survey, because the Sidekick talks to either operating system. It doesn't rely on drivers, it's running itself, and then will report that data via the USB cable to whichever host you plug that into. And then the natural evolution of that was to, well, now that Sidekick's doing all the heavy lifting, we literally just need a screen, introducing the iPad, which is just a screen, right? So yeah, you would plug the Sidekick into your laptop or iPad, and now the data that you collect is going to be pretty much the same. It's going to be pretty much identical. The only difference is the UI and the experience that you have actually collecting that data. And so on iPad, of course, we've just got that nice big screen. Well, I say big, I'm assuming that you have a big iPad, but I use the smaller iPad at the moment, but it's still just screen, right? You're not carrying, and it's much lighter than a laptop. So yeah, that's we think an upgrade to the experience of performing a site survey, but it doesn't. The actual data that we're collecting is more or less identical.
Sure. and I think that you've done a great job on the UI there, which you'll all get to see in just a minute when we move on to the demo. Then the next part of the Connect package is Ekahau Capture. So Nick, why would people want Ekahau Capture? What is that going to allow them to do?
Yeah, I think Ekahau Packet Capture, sorry, the tool Ekahau Capture is a small standalone application that allows you to perform packet capture using the Sidekick. And I think that this is likely to excite those wireless engineers out there who already use packet capture as part of their workflow. But I think for engineers who perhaps don't use packet capture as a go-to amongst their toolkit, the ease of which we can actually now capture packets using the Sidekick makes the barrier to entry of just collecting packets much lower. And then once you've saved a PCAP, you can do whatever you like with it. You can either analyze it yourself, or you can send that off to someone else who actually, lives and breathes the packets and really wants to is able to get into the real nitty gritty of it. But the thing with packet capture is up until now, it has usually required many more steps, many more stages in order of preparation, and then you've got to collect it. And if you're using your laptop at the time, then you can't. If you're using a Mac, you have to disconnect from the wireless network that you're on to then perform the capture. And the idea here is that you're already carrying a Sidekick with you. Now we've enhanced the functionality and added this feature set, which will enable you to to perform packet capture using the Sidekick.
Yeah. And then the final
with both
piece.
Radios. Yeah.
Sorry. And then
No.
The final piece of Ekahau Connect is Ekahau Cloud. Now, this is, as the name suggests, cloud storage for sharing files between your team members. And we've got a slide in a minute that's going to show just how sort of Ekahau Cloud is going to change the workflow in terms of doing a survey. So we won't dwell on that just yet.
Okay.
So this bit here is just to sort of show people exactly what Ekahau Connect, what the components of that are. So the Ekahau Connect pack is Ekahau Pro and Ekahau Sidekick, which can be bought separately. There are advantages of buying those two in the bundle. Mainly, you get a good cost saving. And then the Connect subscription includes Survey for iPad, Capture, and Cloud. Now you can get that as a 12 or a 36-month subscription. And those three things come together. So when you get the Connect subscription, you get Survey for iPad, Capture, and Cloud all together. Okay, so how does Ekahau Connect work in terms of the cloud and the collaboration piece? So Nick, the workflow that we're going here for is creating your project with Ekahau Pro, which is where you'd import your floor plans and all of that sort of stuff, and then using Cloud to push those files onto the Survey for iPad so that you can then go and do your work around with a really lightweight solution.
Yeah, so I think one thing with the Ekahau Cloud is that the one thing to stress actually here is just that the cloud component of Ekahau Connect is optional to use. So you don't have to necessarily use the cloud if you don't wish to. It's an opt-in portion of the Ekahau Connect. But actually, no, just go back one slide. Just go backwards. Oh, okay, well, yeah, that kind of like explains it. But you can see on this slide with the workflow, right? We think the easiest way of moving project files around between laptop and iPad is probably going to be via Ekahau Cloud. So if I have an Ekahau Connect subscription, I log into Ekahau Connect on my laptop using Ekahau Pro. That gives me access to my online storage space in the Ekahau Cloud, and I can create project files on Ekahau Pro and then push them up to the cloud, go to the iPad, plug the Sidekick into my iPad using the physical port on that one, and I fire up the Ekahau app, which you can download from the App Store, log in with your Ekahau credentials, and then you can bring that project file down onto the iPad and then use the Sidekick to collect that data. And then the reverse would be true once you've finished. However, we do understand that there are environments and perhaps potential customers in which the use of a cloud service is not desirable, and therefore, if you choose to, you can actually choose to place that project file onto the Sidekick storage device rather than the cloud. So you have an option. You can create a project on Ekahau Pro and push it to the cloud, or create it on Ekahau Pro and push it to the Sidekick. And then when you plug that Sidekick into your iPad, then you're going to get to see those project files and add data to them that way. So there is flexibility there in the way in which you approach this. Another nice thing with the Ekahau Cloud is that, of course, with cloud services, the maintenance and upgrades is all done on our side. So we can introduce new features without end users necessarily needing to install new software, which is one thing that we do have with Ekahau Pro, of course, that whenever we create new features, we have to then push out a new bundle of Ekahau Pro and everybody has to install it, which is something that will not disappear completely, but it will slowly start to fade as the cloud platform matures and we can add new features to the cloud.
Yeah,
and you can see there's 128 gig storage in the Sidekick.
Needless to say that obviously the cloud can also be used for sharing files between team members as well. So rather than you having to use something like Dropbox or something like that to send a file to a colleague if you want their opinion on something, the cloud lets you do it from within the app, and I think that's also a really good use case of it. Not just obviously transferring files between your iPad and your laptop.
Yeah, so there is a large collaboration piece of Ekahau Cloud, and that is that if I create my project file on Ekahau Pro, I push it up to the cloud, I can share that project with other Ekahau Connect users. I would pop in their email address, and they will need an Ekahau Connect account to access that project file, but they are then able to view the project and even download it onto their iPad, and they can add data to that project simultaneously if need be, if you wish to. So you can have 2, 3, 4 engineers working on the same project file. Now this would work only for post-site surveys. It would not work for pre-deployment surveys, not at the moment anyway. But yeah, if you have a very large building to survey, you can potentially have multiple engineers working on the same project file simultaneously.
Yeah.
Using the iPad.
Perfect. Okay, so that's enough of the slides. So we want to jump into the demo. So Nick, you can actually show people Connect working in action. So I'll just make you the presenter, and we'll get cracking.
Please. All right. Okay, screen 2. Share my screen. Yes. Lovely. All right. So here we are on my Mac, and you can see this is Ekahau Pro version 10, slightly, more or less the same layout as before, slightly updated icons. And so what we're going to do is let's create a project file from scratch. So we've opened Ekahau Pro. We're going to add a map to this project. So we'll jump into resources, and we'll grab a nice SVG. We'll go with the classic. SVG here. So we bring in a floor plan that does not have a scale predefined because it's an SVG file. There's no way of defining that within the project file. Within the file type, excuse me. And so we must set the scale. So we'll do that quickly with the scale tool, click, drag. We know this distance is 29 meters because I measured it with my laser measure. Right, so we've now set the scale, and we could now potentially perform survey using Ekahau Pro on the laptop. But let's say that we have an engineer on site already, and they have their Sidekick and they have an Ekahau Connect login. So we could send the project file to them via Ekahau Cloud. So what I would need to do is save my project file locally. So we'll sling this onto the desktop, and we'll call this we'll call this Open Reality, like this. So we save the project file, and now we're going to push it to the cloud. So in fact, let's add a note as well. Let's add a map note over here, so we can say that we're the support desk and we've been speaking to the customer, and they've reported, it's definitely in this room, that they've been having some problems. So we'll use the map note tool, and I now have the ability to just add a note saying that users have reported Wi-Fi issues in this area, and we can push that up. Lovely. So now for me to push that project file to the cloud or Sidekick, I would use one of these new two icons. Also, they are available under File, and you can see here we've got Sidekick, Import, Export, and Ekahau Cloud, Import, Export, and the experience is more or less the same with both of those. But if we go to Ekahau Cloud, for example, we can now see here are some of the project files that are already in my Ekahau Cloud storage space, and you can see the owner. And so here's a project file that was shared with me by Joel, and we could actually look at that project file if we wanted to, but we're not going to do that right now. We are going to save this currently open project to the cloud. Now, ironically, there is already a project file in my cloud space called Open Reality. So what we'll do, let's save this project as Open Reality 2019, like this, just to avoid confusion. So let's push this to the Ekahau Cloud. All right, save to cloud. So now Ekahau Pro is going to push my project file that we created with a scale and a map node up into the cloud. And now it is time for us to connect the, to bring up the iPad. So hopefully I can share my iPad screen with you like this. And if we do that, lovely. So I mean, there's no smoke and mirrors here. This is a genuine iPad. I'm sharing this with my laptop via AirPlay, and at the moment, what you can see is that my Sidekick isn't connected to the iPad. So what I will just do quickly is plug the Sidekick into the iPad. But here we are inside the Ekahau app, and what I just did there was I dragged down on the screen, and now we're getting a refresh, and you can see that there is a new project sat in the cloud called Open Reality 2019. And it's grayed out at the moment because that project file is not currently sat on the iPad. It's still living in the cloud. And the icon for the Sidekick has just changed color. So if I tap on the icon, we can have a look and see that now Sidekick is connected to the iPad. Happy days. I'm using an iPad with the Lightning connector, so I'm using the Apple dongle that called the camera adapter, and that gives me a USB type A port coming out of the iPad. If, however, you have one of the latest and greatest iPads, then you have a USB type C connector, and therefore you could use a USB type C to micro USB cable to connect the Sidekick to your iPad. Now for the actual survey, let's collect some data with our iPad. So I will tap on the project file, that downloads the project from the Ekahau Cloud, and now we can look into our project. And so as you can see in here, the UI of the iPad app is a simplified, more intuitive layout, all intended for data capture. The iPad app is not intended to be a replacement of Ekahau Pro. The iPad app is all about giving engineers the ability to collect survey data while on site, not having to carry around their laptop with them. So we can pinch and pull, we can pan around the map. Let's have a look, what's this note? If I tap on that, we can now see here's the note. saying users have reported Wi-Fi issues in this area. And we do even have the ability to take pictures. Now, is there an AP around here? Let's pretend because Airport Express is an AP, and so I could actually take a picture like this. We could do take a photo, and like there we go. There's this Apple device, but it's not got any power plugged into it. So you could actually take photos using the built-in camera of the iPad, and then we could even do some annotations. I wonder if the Apple Pencil is gonna behave. It does. Excellent. So we can easily just say here like there's no cables. But of course, this isn't actually an AP. Oh, it's an Airport Express. So actually, we could use this as an AP. But there we go. So I can add my picture to that note. Let's collect some survey data. So up in the top left-hand portion of the screen, we've got two tabs, View and Survey. So if I hit on Survey, now we enter into survey mode, and there are two options. Just like on Ekahau Pro, we have the ability to do stop and go survey or continuous. So let's do stop and go first. So we're going to wander over to the building, to the room where we saw the problem, and we will collect 4 survey data points in here. So we'll do one there. I tap on the screen. I'm using the Apple Pencil, but also the human finger works quite well as well. And we tap on there.
I really love the countdown timer.
And then the hash marks that you can see, the idea behind that UI is to kind of give you a feel for what's the area of coverage that we've now collected data for, the area that we have collected data to represent. That's not precise, but it is just a feeling. It just to give you a feel for, are there going to be coverage holes in my survey data? Let's toggle over to the continuous survey now and say that, well, now that we've done the room, we're going to start here in the corridor. So I tap once, and now I'm walking. So let's use my mouse cursor to pretend that I'm actually now walking down this corridor. And just similar to on Ekahau Pro, you tap on the screen, you indicate where you are, then you start walking, and then you indicate again as soon as you change speed or direction. So I've now reached this point here, so I tap on the screen, and now I'm going to turn around, and I get to this door, and I've got to open the door. So tap on that one, open the door, go through the door, get on that side of the door, carry on walking down the corridor. So say we get to here, and we're like, oh no, I accidentally tapped in the wrong place. So if I press and hold on that survey point, I can now, I could delete my survey path, or I could actually just move that survey point back to, I actually got to the door, but I tapped in the wrong place. So that's great. I'm going to exit edit mode, and I think I've now finished my survey. So I'm now done. So we'll tap on the View tab, and we start to see some data on this project. Now, the data that we're seeing is not necessarily that great because I didn't actually move around my room, and I'm also not in this building. I'm in my office, but we can see that we have some of the SSIDs. So this SSID here, the Ashtravan Appreciation Society, is the SSID that I'm currently connected to, and we can see all of the other SSIDs in my environment. We can even see that there are a couple of APs with hidden SSIDs. And Ekahau, the app, has placed an AP on the map. So if we tap on that, we can see that this AP is the Ruckus AP. Well, it is a Ruckus AP, and that's the AP pumping out those SSIDs. And we can also look through the other SSIDs up here. And so, for example, Cisco Survey, we can see that one there. So you can see the coverage of the different SSIDs like this. The other visualizations that are available to us here in the iPad app are signal strength, secondary signal strength, channel overlap, round trip time, and noise. So by default, because my iPad had an association to the Wi-Fi here, it was performing an active survey at the same time. So just like on Ekahau Pro, I was using the Sidekick for passive survey measurements and the internal adapter of the iPad to collect the active survey metrics. We have the ability to toggle between the 2.4 and 5 gig bands. So suggesting that the SSID ACE here is on both, whereas if I look at Astrovan Appreciation Society, that one's also being pumped out on both. We can bring up the network requirements over here. And that's it. Like the UI here is intentionally simple. The idea is so that you can collect the survey data that you need to, distraction free, using the iPad, not carrying such a heavy laptop with you. So what I propose we now do is we could add another note actually. Let's go to the notes tool. That's the one up there in the top right hand corner, and now I can tap on the map to add a new note, and we'll do this one here, and we can just say that no problems could be found.
And Nick, is part of this solution to enable people who are less experienced in Wi-Fi to be able to do surveys?
Absolutely. I mean, we see many different workflows being made possible with this new suite, or this extension to the suite of tools from Ekahau. But yeah, as you saw, I mean, that workflow that I have just performed is pretty easy, right? I mean, if you were the guy on site and had the iPad, you could just be pushed. Somebody could push a project file to you, and then you could just tap on the map where you are and collect enough data to hopefully provide the people back in the office enough visibility to that environment to start analyzing the problem. So yeah, I think the idea, or one of the ideas behind the iPad app is to enable members of the workforce who necessarily aren't Wi-Fi professionals, but who could perform a survey, and that gives the professional Wi-Fi engineer more time to do predictive design work or do the analysis of the survey projects.
I think it's all about using the resources you've got to maximum effect, isn't it? You don't want to be sending your top engineers out to site to do a survey if there's somebody that's local that could do that for them, right? All they
Absolutely.
need is the survey for iPad and obviously their Sidekick, and then they can do that. Yeah,
I think so. So what we'll do is I'll now, if I hit the back button, this one up here, that will leave this project file, and you can see that synchronizing. So as soon as I back out of that project file, and that indicates to the iPad app that I have finished collecting data, it will then synchronize the project back to the cloud. So if we were to now switch back to Ekahau Pro on the laptop, I would need to bring the latest version of that project down from the cloud. So we go back to the import export window and the OpenReality 2019, which was last modified at 334. And we're going to do open from cloud. That's now going to bring back that project file from the cloud onto my laptop. And so what we can see is actually that Ekahau Pro is showing us a lot more pertinent data, in that we have access to all of the AP information, all of the SSIDs that were visible. I know we saw those before, but we can also get some of the information about the APs. Also notice that there is another AP that was placed onto the map. So what we did there was that we only placed the automatically selected as my AP onto the map using the iPad app, because there is also an access point here called survey-ap-abcde. And I'll talk about why that has such a weird name in a moment. But it's pumping up two SSIDs, Cisco Survey on the 2.4 gig band and Cisco Survey on the 5. And just like if we had performed the survey using Ekahau Pro, we can use the survey inspector, and we can visualize the data collected at individual points on the map. So we can see over here, so the spectrum data is being recorded just as it would be if we were using Ekahau Pro. And of course, the Wi-Fi data is being recorded as well, surprise, surprise. And also we can see those notes. So let's go and have a look at them. So we can see here is might help if I come out of the survey inspector, but we can view the notes. And so there was my original comment, and there was me talking to myself, and there's our picture. So now we've got this way of collecting those pictures and saving them directly into the project file from the device that we are using to perform the survey. I think maybe there's one other thing that I would like to show you on Ekahau Pro version 10 before I talk about capture. But just to show you that with the Sidekick, this was a feature that we introduced into Ekahau Pro in version 10 right now. So at the moment, this feature isn't on the iPad, but we will see what we can do with that. But I want to show you the interference detection that can be performed. So if I plug my Sidekick back into the laptop, and fingers crossed, we will see the spectrum. Lovely. So now we will, yeah, we can just have a look at this live. So we'll pop up this one here. And so now we're looking at the live data surrounding me right now. And if I switch my trusty analog video camera on, so we can see that energy just as we could before. But now when with pattern recognition, if at all possible, Ekahau will identify that interferer and mark it in the spectrum view. And so that's pretty cool. But another feature that is introduced with V10 is the ability to place those interferers on the map. And so here is an example project where you can see that interfering devices have been placed onto the map automatically. And these are all 2.4 gigahertz interferers. You can see here. And so that's a new feature to Ekahau Pro version 10. But let's get back to Ekahau Connect. And so we've now touched on the cloud. We've touched on the iPad app. We haven't necessarily talked about the survey, the capture app. So now I just want to talk one more time very quickly. You remember that AP that we saw, which had a funny name. Let me bring because I did not save that one over the local version. I need to open that one.
Nick, if your interferer is still on, it's doing a very good job. The voice quality's dropped a little bit.
Thank you. I had left it on. How's it now?
That's better.
Perfect. There we go. So like, I don't know what's going on. My Bluetooth audio sucks. Yeah, that'll be because you've got a video camera in your study, Nick. Thank you very much. So this is something that I'm going to combine two things together, and this will probably take about 6 minutes, and then we will have 15 minutes towards the end. Well, yeah, 10-15 minutes at the end of the session for questions and answers, and I know you have a couple more slides just to touch on. But just look at this one very quickly. In my environment, there was an AP pumping out these SSIDs called Cisco Survey, and the AP name was detected as Survey-AP-ABCDE, which is a bit of an odd name. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down Ekahau Pro. No, we're not going to save those changes. And now we're going to launch Ekahau Capture. So Ekahau Capture is a standalone application for Windows and Mac, and it gives me the ability to talk to the Sidekick and perform packet capture. So I can, using this very super simple UI, I can select the channels that I'm interested in capturing. So I'm interested in capturing channels 1 and 36. Why? Because they're the channels that my Cisco Survey AP is actually using. And under options, I have configured Ekahau Capture to save my capture file directly to the desktop, and we can also modify the channel dwell time. So that looks great. Yes, please. Let's start the capture. And so we'll fire up this one here. Navigate to the desktop. All right, and you can see that we are capturing on channels 1 and 36. Come back. We're capturing on channels 1 and 36, and you can also see the total space being taken up by that packet capture. Now, there are few APs in my environment operating on channels 1 and 36, so that's why this is not filling up very quickly. If you had lots of APs and lots of traffic, this would be filling up very quickly. So we will do stop capture, navigate to my desktop, and we can now see that there is a PCAP on my desktop. And so now back to the mystery of the mystery of the AP name, of the funny AP name. So double click on that PCAP and we can fire up Wireshark. And so we can now see here is the capture, just as we would expect to see if we had performed it using using the internal NIC of my laptop, or if we were using the external dongles on a Windows laptop. But anyway, we've performed a capture and we've now got a .pcap, right? There's the convenience of it being done with the packet, with the Sidekick, is the kind of focus here. But I want to talk about these AP names, because if we look through my list of APs that were broadcasting on channels 1 and 36, we should be able to find an AP that is broadcasting. It's SSID as Cisco Survey 2.4. And just as we would be able to, now I'm using Wireshark at the moment. There are alternative products for packet capture, for packet analysis. Like really what I'm looking at here is just a stream of packets and there's no statistics out of this. If you're a genius inside Wireshark, you can create that kind of visualizations, but there are professional packet analysis tools that will provide meaningful statistics from .pcaps. But all I'm doing here is looking at the raw stream of frames that were captured, and the one that I want to focus in on for the moment is the beacon sent out by my Cisco AP. And so we select that AP, and now we can have a look through the details of the details that were captured about this AP and about this beacon frame. And what I want to show you in here, people are thinking, yeah, come on, Nick, get to the point. That's what I wanted to show you. Was just in here that in the beacon frame, some APs, some vendors support AP name broadcast. This access point has a name that is much longer than 15 characters. I can prove this to you by showing you a screenshot of the configuration page of that AP. But you'll see here that I set this AP up with a name that went survey-AP-A through Z. But this particular AP doesn't broadcast, or Cisco doesn't broadcast more than 15 characters. And I just wanted to show you that in Ekahau we pull that AP name, and in the packet capture we can also see that's where that information inside Ekahau is coming from. Oh, right, we got there. Let's break there, I think. So that is the Ekahau Capture app. So a small standalone application for Windows and Mac, and that is included as part of the Ekahau Connect subscription.
Perfect, thank you, Nick. Just while we're talking about packet analysis, we are actually hosting a webinar on the 16th of May, which talks about packet capture analysis using Arista Packets, which is a free tool to download. So it's another tool like Wireshark that can be used. So if you want to know a bit more about that, then look out for details on that. We'll be announcing that shortly. So just to conclude the presentation today, then there's a few more slides to go through just to explain about next steps, really. So I'll just show my screen and go through those. Okay, so if you're interested in Connect and you want to get hold of it, what is it you need to buy? So we briefly discussed this earlier. There's the Connect pack, which gets you Pro and Sidekick, and then you've got the Connect subscription, which includes Survey for iPad, Capture, and Cloud. So it's basically 2 line items. Now your subscription is 12 or 36 months, as we said. If you don't renew the subscription, you will lose access to Survey for iPad, Capture, and Cloud. So that's just worth bearing in mind. Okay, so if we have any existing customers on the webinar today, if you've already got a Sidekick, then you can just buy the subscription. If not, you will need to buy one, because obviously Survey for iPad and Capture rely on the Sidekick in order to do their thing. So if you need any pricing for any of those things, then please reach out to your local reseller partner or get in touch with us, and we can put you in touch with a reseller partner who'll be able to provide you with a quote. Then just really quickly, yesterday Ekahau announced the launch of Ekahau University. So people might be familiar with the ECSE courses, which is a 4-day course which leads to a certification. We get such fantastic feedback from people that have been on there. So that's now been rebranded as ECSE Design. The content has been slightly refreshed as well to include the new Ekahau Connect tools and version 10. And there's also a launch of a brand new course called ECSE Advanced. Now, you have to have completed ECSE Design before you can go on to the Advanced certification. So that's a further 3 days, and that's basically a deeper dive into some of the more complex aspects of Wi-Fi design and troubleshooting. If you'd like any more information about either of those training courses, again, just please get in touch with us. Okay, so questions. So I believe, Carlos, you're on the line. You've been manning the questions box.
I have in the background. Guys, thank you for your questions. Nick, if you're ready to answer some of these questions, I'll start firing them across. But
yes, please.
There was a great first question from Iqbal, which is all to do with versions of surveys. So he's basically asking, can we still load older surveys into version 10, and will we still get the same integrity of results?
Okay, so the answer is yes, you can open older project files in version 10. You can't go the other way. So you cannot open a project file saved by version 10 with Ekahau Site Survey version 9. And the data will be unchanged. What will be different is the visualization engine, and so that's it. That's a thing to be aware of, is that Ekahau Pro version 10 has a different visualization engine, and therefore things may look different, but we haven't altered the data inside that project file by you opening or saving. If you are in that scenario and you're concerned about the way things look in version 10, what I recommend is open your project file in version 10 and then save it as a new file name, and in that way you've still preserved your original project file, which you could still open in Ekahau Site Survey version 9 if you needed to for any reason.
Fantastic. Another regular question seems to be around the iPad, and which version of iPad do you recommend to run the new Ekahau app?
Okay, so we have decided, or we have opted to support all iPads that will run the latest operating system of iOS. So we are mimicking Apple, and I say we're mimicking Apple. When you compile an application for iOS, it's very simple to set the restrictions here, and it's easiest if we just say we will support whatever the latest operating system is for iOS. So currently, any iPad that runs iOS 12 will be capable of running the Ekahau app. But just as with laptops, you will get snappier performance out of the newer iPads. Grunt, haven't they? They've got a faster 8 series processor and more RAM. So the answer here is any iPad that runs iOS 12 will work with the Ekahau app, survey for iPad app.
Fantastic. Another question that came up a few times was a surprise that there's storage on the Sidekick. What's the storage limits, and is that storage available on older Sidekicks?
So the storage is inside all Sidekicks. That's not a hidden feature. It's not a feature that we did not include. We have been putting them inside all Sidekicks, and they just wasn't a use for it when we initially started selling these. So yes, if you own a Sidekick, it has the storage space inside it. That is a free gift from us to you. It's already there. You cannot access that storage though in terms of it being a mounted drive. It's purely there for the Ekahau app on laptop and iPad to put project files. And what was the limit? It's 128 gig storage device, and I think 8 gigs is reserved, so it's 120 gigs of storage space available to you. And as you know, if you are an existing customer, the compression that Ekahau uses is pretty good, so you won't be filling that up very quickly, even with project files with Wi-Fi and Spectrum data and large project files and lots of pictures. I think it's going to still take a long while to fill that up. Actually, I've got another thing that I just wanted to add on to the iPad question, if I may just roll back one question. Pencil support is the only real thing that you should consider when making a purchase of an iPad like this. Is, do you want the ability to use the Apple Pencil? Because that's currently all of the iPad Pros, and in fact the latest iPad and iPad Mini will do the Pencil. But anyway, something to consider. It's whether you prefer using the stylus that Apple provides or the finger stylus.
Fantastic, thank you for that. There's a couple of questions that have come through in regards to upgrades, and rather than talk about those individually, Matthew being the latest person to ask that question, what we'll do is we'll get the account managers after the session today to get in contact and just explain the options and what's required in order to move up to the Connect packs. Nick, I think that's probably, without repeating ourselves, probably the limit of the questions, unless there's something that is glaringly obvious that hasn't been asked that perhaps you may want to add.
I think the only thing really for me left to add is just to say, give us feedback. Like tell us what you like, and if you have feature requests, you can email them directly to me if you wish, or I know that Carlos and the guys at Open Reality love to hear feature requests as well, and they can always ripple them on to me. So yeah, if you have feature requests, please share them with us. We don't guarantee that we cannot guarantee that we will be able to put them in place, but yeah, tell us features that you would like to see inside Ekahau.
It's fair to say that the reason that so many people love your tools, Nick, is the fact that Ekahau are very open to feedback from the users out in the world, and they have helped shape Ekahau products since the inception of the company, really. So don't feel that it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Okay, excellent. I tell you what, let's do it. Let's go there. We're currently running an experiment. There is a portal open at the moment. So if you head over to ekahau.uservoice.com, you can send feature requests directly in yourself. This is kind of an experiment at the moment. But so yeah, if there's anybody on the call at the moment who has got some fantastic feature requests that they really want to share with us, you have a plethora of I hope that's an appropriate use of that word. You have a you have many options. You can email me, you can email the guys at Open Reality, you can do it on Twitter if you can squeeze that feature request into 260 characters, or you can head over to ekahau.uservoice.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick, for your time and for taking us through Connect today. Thank you, Carlos, for manning the questions, and thank you all for attending. Look forward to seeing you on another webinar very soon.
Lovely. Thanks very much, guys, and thank you everybody for attending. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.